آقا این تونله رو بخره ما ندیدیم
آقا اونی که رد کردیم که رد کردیم دیگه
کجا بود تونه؟
بابا رد کردیم که کنار بیستون بود دیگه
ما همینجور داریم میریم و اصلا معلوم نیست کجا داریم میریم این آدرس رو بخونیم کجا؟
ببین من که چند دفعه بخونم بعد از دورانی میرسیم به جاده مارپیچ. خب اینم جاده مارپیچ. الان تو جاده مارپیچیم دیگه.
خب
بعد جاده مارپیچ به طرف پایین میرویم، بعد از 1-2 کیلومتر میرسیم به تک درخت.
دیگه پر از تک درخته.
واسه چقدر تون بردی مواظب باش نشکنه. کوکا درش دورش خالی کن من بده اونم. اصلا بنزش بالا.
هر خوان بیم که حامله بیم. الان چی مزایم منالگم هاورد مثل دنیای است بس مثل کل مدیرم کارکم.
او ببینمش.
غذا خورده. آش تاج دولت میدانی؟
تاج دولت همون قبل چیه؟
بله. تاج خورده.
به غیر از اون نشونه دیگه هم هست؟
بله.
چه؟
اون حرف میزنه.
حرف میزنه؟
بله.
وقت داری؟ یه دقیقه بشین اینجا ببینم. چجوری حرف میزنه؟ چی میگه؟ بس سوی شده بچه های ما یادت نره یواش ای هوا آی دکتر این زن
He started out, in the 70s and kind of, built upon his films. One of the things that strike me about his work is how he's always preferred poetry to novels, and that's what he keeps on referring, that how things don't have to be conclusive and things don't have to have an end, but have to be loose enough for audiences to interpret them according to how they see it. Just like art is interpreted, for instance, paintings or sculpture or or poetry is. So he likes these loose ends, and when you introduce to his work, you find that a little disconcerting because your desire is to have a conclusive end or some sense of. So as you start watching his work, you see several recurring themes, and we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll open it up to you if you have any questions regarding this specific work. So perhaps you can illustrate more about it.
Thank you. I teach media studies also, and whenever I teach, I make sure that I make my students watch at least one Irani film, and I don't even let them take bathroom breaks. So they have to watch like the whole thing, because it's a kind of aesthetic and the kind of film appreciation that you need to build. But I want to just say a few things a little bit about, I don't want to give long lectures, but a little bit about the history, because most Iranian films, and especially the films developed in the 80s, led by Abbas Kiarostami, these films and this movement, which is called Iranian New Wave, it's a reaction to the ideas of modernity, and can be traced back to 1968. So when Raza Shah Pahlavi ruled over Iran for a long time, he and like similarly in Pakistan, when film industry was developing, there was instructions from the Ministry of Information that make films about modernity and do not show village life and do not show poverty. And so the reaction was to that kind of instruction that was coming from the ministry. And in 1968, the first film that Dariush Mehrji made, called The Cow, that sort of started this movement. And that film was about a cow and a villager's relationship with the cow, and and when the cow dies, how that person deals with and also acts and becomes like a cow. So almost like it's almost Kafkaesque in its approach. And so that 1968 film was the turning point in Iranian cinema. And after that, in the 80s, Abbas Kiarostami and various other filmmakers took the movement forward. And one important thing about this movement is that it's mostly transnational films. These are the films that are also called art house cinema films that are usually shown abroad in film festival circuits. And so it's not one of those films that are typically commercial films that are shown all over Iran. So very few Iranians are familiar with this kind of work, as much as it is famous all over the world, especially in Europe. So these films were developed in reaction to the modernity, and also after Islamic Revolution, there were more instructions from the ministry about what to do and what not to do. Even they had to take their film screenplays for approval, production approval, every kind of approval they needed from the ministry. So what they did in order to show their reaction to those kind of instructions, they started saying things in metaphors. So cows, and as you saw, there were so many metaphors that you came across, and there's things that you only hear and do not see. So they developed this new kind of aesthetic. So they challenged, so the kind of cinema that developed, it challenged the idea of black and white, heroes and villains, the kind of narratives we are used to in commercial cinema. So this new aesthetic, and also, as Madhiya was saying, that it also was nurturing a new kind of spectatorship. So people who watch commercial films, they have all the answers ready-made to them. So this is good and this is evil. Whereas this kind of film, and as you saw in this film, there are no ready-made answers, and when you sleep tonight, you'll probably dream about some image. It will stay with you, and he meant this or he meant that. And I always, for example, when I show it, and some of my students are sitting here, ask them questions. What did you understand? One person says this, the other person says something else. So there are various interpretations that come from the kind of images that they're shown.
The kind of reaction he's looking for. Like he says that perhaps in Iran, my film would be shown in one cinema. In the US, perhaps two. And he's like, I've never concerned myself with the question of audiences. Like, it doesn't concern him. And he says something like, to look for being by not being. So he's always so there are 12 characters in this film, for instance, who are not shown but are talked about. And you can count them. I won't count them for you. But the woman, of course, we never see her. We never see the grave digger. We never see the woman who calls him, right? And it's probably, sorry? the friend, or perhaps his boss, who's actually looking for those images that he's been asked to photograph of the morning rituals, right? Or whatever he's asked, he's on an assignment with his crew. So we don't know exactly what he's probably waiting for the woman to die so that they can film her. But we never see that person. So these are the techniques which are unique to Abbas Kiarostami, and then he influenced several other filmmakers such as Jafar Panahi and Mohsen Makhmalbaf and Samira Makhmalbaf and several other filmmakers who emerged from this kind of. So he shuns the Western notions of 3-act structure, and that's where it rises, because we're so used to seeing the beginning, middle, and end, and we so in each story, every story, whether we're reading a novel or we're watching a film, and we're looking for turning points. So he has turning points in his films, but they're just so subtle, and he doesn't like that structure, and his work is against it. So which is why it's significant, because it is unique vocabulary, something that we're not used to.
Thank you. Questions and reflections, koi confusion, just observations. I have some curiosities, but आप लोग में से कोई express करना चाहेगा how you felt? I mean, it can.
I can say.
Please.
Awfully abstract discussion and very poetic, all that stuff. I don't speak Persian. I wish I could, because I'm sure that was part of it. These are the subtitles, every frame of this film was like a painting. Where's the visual discussion? This is what I was lost in. I really enjoyed the visuals.
So this is a collective discussion. Why don't you share something about?
That's it. I'm done.
Okay. Yes, please.
So there is this sequence of that handicapped teacher. First of all, they don't reveal that handicapped to educate someone. The discussion that he actually basically seems to. So we are talking about the handicapped teacher and the right that he gets, and he talks about that basically you are just an outsider, you're just a voyeur, and you are here for basically thrills or like slum tourism basically in a way, and we have to actually live this. So is that like almost like a film berating its audience, that you're watching this and you think that you're like learning something and you're gonna take home something, and you'll be like, you discuss it with friends and that'll be that, but there are actual people out there in the world. That's what I read from it. What do you think about it?
Well, I think my interpretation of that particular scene is because it's also about the sort of contrast of modernity with the village life. And so for an outsider photographer, filmmaker, the rituals of the village life are exotic, and whereas this person says that it's, and so you're right in a way that, but it's not out there. It's not like he's saying this is what you need to interpret. He's just putting it there, and that's the beauty of his work, that it's not few but many fables woven together, and images, as you pointed out, woven together. And because he's also an artist, a painter, and a poet, and that shows in his work as well. So it's, I think, I would not like make a conclusion of about exactly this is what it is, but it's one of the interpretations.
There's also this one scene where the tortoise goes over to the grave and then he topples it because whimsy catches him, and after he leaves, the tortoise has to struggle and get back on its feet again. That's almost like his role in the village. He'll visit, he'll do his thing, and then he'll leave, and the village will have to figure itself out. So I thought that was like kind of like supporting that thing.
I think there are general themes of life and death and culture that he is addressing in the film. So that's one of the, and most of his other films also, they deal with the questions of life and death. Taste of Cherry, Where is the Friend's House, 10,
Any other reflections? Yeah, go ahead.
Something I wasn't admired his work as loud. And the movie was very poetic, and I also liked Farzad, so I related to it. But I felt that I couldn't connect to the characters because maybe stylistically the way it was shot, the focus was more on the landscape rather than, scarcely there was a moment where camera, focuses on a character's face. Was that deliberate? So is the director trying to deliberately distance us from, those characters? Because the movie is a take, it's kind of a modernist take on the absurdity of life and the finality of death. So is that deliberate? I'm just kind of wondering.
Yeah, it's been said that it's almost godlike the way he shoots his films. So the angle is usually very high, and he doesn't go into close-ups that much. So it's definitely, that's a recurring aesthetic. And what you in terms of connection, he was asked that once that like poetry is not easy to understand. Often you read it once or twice. So when you refer to poetry as a central theme to your work, do you want people to see your films more than once to be able to connect to them? So he said, I would be selfish if I was to say that people should see my work more than once. Of course, I would. Which filmmaker would not like that? But this is true for his work. In the first, if this is your first film of Abbas Kiarostami, it'll take you time to kind of get, because we're so entrenched in the aesthetic of being told everything, and that's not what he wants. So.
Can I?
Yeah.
I think I disagree with you that we are unable to, because if you think about the main character, and every time he's driving to that point, second time, third time, fourth time, as a viewer, you're with the character, or at least I was with the character, and I was facing the same kind of frustration that, like, oh, again, and how many times is he going to go? Because that kind of frustration that stays with you, and that's.
He also doesn't want you to connect with the protagonist the way you're used to connecting with protagonists, right? Because he wants you to feel that anger and frustration the way the protagonist is feeling. So you're angry at the slowness of things. So all these frustrations which a modern man in a village is feeling, and we feel with the way the film is paced, it's languid and it's deliberate. Yeah.
I was just curious about the context of Abbas Kiarostami and his rise in the 80s. Were there other Iranian filmmakers who came before him who influenced him, or were there other European filmmakers that you can trace his origins or his influence to?
As far as I know, he was really inspired by Tarkovsky's work, Russian, yeah. So so there were people that were before him and in the 50s, and I'm not as aware of the Iranian filmmakers. Maybe Shahram would know, because you've kind of researched the Iranian cinema.
Yeah, as I mentioned, that it goes back to 1968 film. So that was the turning point, and also it's unique in its own way. So it's influenced by Italian neorealism and French poetic realism. So these two waves, most film studies scholars relate Iranian cinema to. So there is a lot of influence from there. But then it's also unique in its own way, the kind of aesthetics and the poetic and the kind of metaphor and symbolism within this cinema is not found in other waves. For example, in Russia or in Brazil, cinema novo and various other avant-garde cinema movements. So there is a common thread, but but again, they keep on challenging. So for example, in this film or similar other films of Abbas Kiarostami's, there was this objection that you're focusing too much on the village life and aesthetics of the landscape. Then he made 10, which was completely, the whole film is shot inside a car. And so again, it's a reaction to things, and so they keep on developing their unique cinematic style, which is very unique to Iran.
I can also quickly respond here to some of the questions. The pacing, I think the centrality of poetry to Iranian cinema in general is quite unique. And it's almost as if the landscape is the protagonist. जो हमारा usual character और plot होता है, इसमें across Iranian cinema, the visuals are telling the story far more than other aspects. So I'd just like to add that's an aesthetic that is particularly, I would say, the influence of Iranian culture on their very unique film history. One more thing I'd like to add on pace, watching Mohsen Makmalbaf's movie once, or it was Samira Makmalbaf, The Day She Became a Woman. I was a graduate student और मैंने पूरे 10-15 मिनट का nap लिया था movie में. And it was a woman on a cycle. There was the repetition here. ना वो जा रहा है, cell phone कर रहा है. It's across Iranian movies. Repetition, ethnographic storytelling, everyday life. तो मैं सो गई और मैं उठी और बड़ी रिलैक्स होके उठी और मैंने देखा कि वो बंदी अभी भी बाइसिकल चला रही है बीच पे. मैंने कहा चलो शुक्र कुछ मिस नहीं हुआ. You know, which is our thing कि कुछ मिस ना हो. Then a while later I was watching an interview with Makmalbaf and he said, किसी ने पूछा कि आपका क्या पर्पस है, which is a good question. भाई क्या चाहते क्या हो भाई, आप ऑडियंस से तंग कर रहे हो, हमें सुला रहे हो, you know, what are you trying to tell us? And he said कि यार मैं चाहता हूँ कि कोई मूवी मेरी देख रहा हो, 10 मिनट सो भी जाए, उठे, उसको वो ये एहसास ना हो कि मुझसे कुछ मिस हो गया है. And I was just like, ये बिल्कुल मेरे साथ हुआ था. I mean, he is achieving his purpose to the core. It's completely antithetical to I want to excite you and energize you and make you stuck on the chair while you watch my movie and be impressed by how cool I am. And here there is a very ego melting contemplative aspect where they are like, नहीं सो जाओ, relax करो. That I have not seen in other cinematic movements. I mean, you can add more to that.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
Radical. To me, that was quite radical to see him say that is the purpose. तुम्हें सुलाना भी है, relax करो ना पूरा दिन काम किया.
काम because that's what I was telling in the beginning, that to keep my students awake during like a 2-hour-long Iranian film is a task.
Yes.
I think the one thing I found most intriguing about the work was the sense of space and how it was utilized. And there was this, it was almost alien at one point because आप हर जगह को एक sense में देख रहे थे. Characters को you didn't see as much, but space you did. घर के इस तरफ भी वो था, उस तरफ भी था. When he was shaving, you could see it through the mirror, and then the other time around you could see it from the back and see how he's walking around. But then there's also this scene जहाँ पे he keeps on going back to attend the call, back and forth, and they actually show how he comes back on the same path. And so it was really intriguing how he's managed both. So you see all these new places. Also when the soup is being brought, he always shows a different angle. So this one time she comes through the space जो windows हैं और सीढ़ियों से उतरते आते हैं, and then the other time, you know, वो ऊपर से देख रहा होता है क्या आ रहा है. तो वो है एक तरफ जहाँ पे आपने वो पूरा एक्सप्लोर किया है. And then also when he's coming down from his steps, एक दफ़ा जब आप जाते हैं you see चूल्हा है, दूसरी दफ़ा आप उतरे होते हैं आप देखते हैं कि you know there's a hen, and then there's milk one time and there's roti another time. That was really really interesting because वो you know there's this sense कभी-कभी in movies there's certain areas that are just not explored. आप हमेशा उसके दूसरा point of view देखते हैं, but इसमें it did get shift. So I was interested. You know the man when he drives off, वो औरत के साथ लड़ाई होती है and she says if you'd be a coward if you came back. But when he goes down, he's actually taken 3 routes to the same shop. And so that was really like, you know, just to be able to come to the same center, but having different solutions or way around it.
Yeah, I think there's a dialogue that also refers to that in the beginning when the child is showing him the way and says, is this the only way? And he's like, no, this is the shortest, but there's several ways to it. So he keeps on emphasizing this point over and over again. There's several ways to see the work, there's several ways to read my characters, there's several ways to approach anything, and each solution is fine.
I also thought that was a commentary on Iranian government, that there are various ways of because most of his films are also a reaction to the kind of morality imposed from the top, and so he shows in little things how morality is embedded in life and does not need to be, and true for us also, it's always imposed from above, from the government side.
Are any of you filmmakers?
Trained as
I'm sorry I missed the introduction, but just to the lady's point is that was really interesting, complicated, intricate, that whoever scouted this location must be Abbas himself. Genius. It was really fabulous, immersive experience. I totally agree. That was a real great part of the film.
So it's a Kurdish village, and he on the border, and most of the way he shoots, he often does not use real actors. The main guy on the phone is the only professional actor, rest of them are not. He also does not write a detailed screenplay. He often writes an outline, and he kind of let the actors improvise on scenes, and so he's interested in this idea of like merging of fiction and reality, documentary and what becomes fiction. How do we tell stories? How can stories be told through collaborative efforts? And it takes much longer, and his crew is known to get really bogged down by the way he works, but then this is how he kind of looks at things.
There's a question here. Can I just, it's very... So you said they obviously were used to loose ends and we didn't meet any, but there was this one part where he's very frustrated and he says to the woman that, pass my message on to the next person, and she says something and he's like, fine, I'll call him myself. And all throughout the movie you keep hearing he says, call me back because I won't be able to call you back. And that was really interesting because I was like, wait, how is he going to do that? Because he hasn't said it, because each time it was the same content but the dialogues were different. They would shift the words, but that was the only time when he said something very different in a similar situation. So what would you say to that? Like, what could possibly be an interpretation?
I mean, I just think that it's this is something that's kind of recurring also, right? In general, like he kind of when he doesn't know, for example, that when people don't know, like it's okay not to know. So that sense of like, again going back to I don't, one can negate things. So that's what, I mean, he doesn't put it out there, but again, this is my interpretation of it, that, he doesn't negate it.
This is the second Iranian movie that I have watched. No, इससे पहले मैंने movie देखी थी Iranian A Separation. It is directed and written by Asghar Farhadi. मैं मीडिया स्टूडेंट तो नहीं हूँ, लेकिन दोनों मूवीज़ में मुझे ये एक अमेजिंग चीज़ लगी कि जिस तरह के एंगल्स लिए गए थे, ऐसा लगता था कि ये बिल्कुल रियल स्टोरी चल रही, रियल लाइफ चल रही हमारे आगे, मतलब इस तरह में, और लॉन्ग शॉट्स लिए गए हैं, छोटी छोटी डिटेल्स वगैरह इतनी उसको रियल कर रही थी। जैसे अगर वो सीढ़ियों से उतर रही है तो उसका जो दामन था कहीं अटक जाना, इस तरह की छोटी, तो बहुत अमेजिंग मूवी थी, ब्यूटीफुल, और बहुत अच्छा काम था। दैट्स ऑल।
बेसिकली मेरी एक ऑब्जर्वेशन थी, वो ये थी कि एक दफ़ा ईरानी फिल्म में हम लोग कहीं ना कहीं देखते ही रहते हैं, तो एक दफ़ा बल्कि 2-3 दफ़ा, बल्कि शायद इससे भी ज़्यादा ऐसा हुआ है कि फ़्रेंच ट्रांसलेशन चल रहा है और हम ईरानी फिल्म देख रहे हैं और हम बस मेस्मराइज हुए हुए हैं और वो बस देख रहे हैं। और सेकंड ये था कि इत्तेफाक से जब मैंने ईरानी मूवीज़ देखनी शुरू की तो उसी ज़माने में सतेज रे की भी जो जैसे अपू ट्रायलॉजी या जो पुरानी उनकी फिल्में थी वो देखी हैं, तो मुझे दोनों में बड़ी सिमिलैरिटी नज़र आती है। जैसे आप लोग कमेंट कर रहे थे कि जी रशियन इन्फ्लुएंसेस थे, समहाउ मुझे लगता है कि ईरानी सिनेमा और सतेज रे की मूवीज़ जो रियलिस्टिक इतनी ज़्यादा हैं, जैसे गांव के उनके भी सीन होते हैं और ऑब्वियसली बिल्कुल ही डिफरेंट वो होता है वहाँ पे, तो इसके बारे में आई जस्ट थॉट मे बी
I think the term that's Yeah, the term that's used is art house cinema. So mostly these films, for example, Satyajit Ray and Ghatak from India, and Cinema Novo, Italian neorealism, and French New Wave. And if you go to festival circuits, so Cannes, Venice, Toronto, and all of those festivals, so you see similar kind of aesthetic, but obviously there are individual differences that are unique. So I think the difference between probably Ray's films and Iranian films, or Abbas Kiarostami's film, is they are more poetic as compared to Indian art house cinema films, where there is raw reality, whereas in Iranian films, purposefully the access to raw reality is thwarted, and through symbolism and through metaphors and poetic realism, that direct access to aesthetics of poverty or aesthetics of hunger is obstructed. So that I think is one unique difference between the two.
Medea, do you have any final
Also,
thoughts?
I feel perhaps, as far as I know, the regional cinema in India has still been influenced by this kind of aesthetic, but perhaps not the Hindi language cinema. So after Satyajit, there are very few filmmakers that come to mind who have kind of followed on that kind of. Because their Hindi cinema, which we call Bollywood, has obviously overshadowed. There are some Marathi filmmakers who, Finding Fanny and few other films that one can think of, which have that kind of, dealing specifically with Dalit communities and caste system. But then in India it becomes about the issue. The interesting thing over in Iranian cinema is that it's not politicized that way, and which is what we suffer from also. We in Pakistani cinema, which is slowly, now that we're seeing, either we have something very mainstream or we have something which kind of becomes too political. So it loses the ordinary everyday of life that all of us look at, all of us are interested in, but that's never brought without a political baggage. So.
Okay, thank you, Medea, for organizing the film screening, and T2F for enabling us to do that. And thank you, everyone, for
Thank you for coming.